Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Good evening. Welcome to being here, wherever you are on our amazing planet.
Yes.
I'm Ariel.
I'm Shia.
And
welcome to being here.
it's so good, it's worth saying twice. Do you ever remember when you were a kid, maybe your mom didn't read to you, but my mom read to me a lot, particularly at nap time. And there was a period of time where I'd want the same fairy tale over and over every day, and she would read it every day. I was just so...
No, I don't remember that.
You didn't have that kind of...
No, that wasn't my childhood.
Well, and look how you turned out.
Pretty good,
It was
actually,
perfect.
considering all things.
Well, fairy tales can come true. It can happen to you.
If you're young at heart.
Yes, today's the possibility to recover our youthful outlook on life if you happen to have lost it. And if not, you can polish it up, brush it up.
I think most of us have lost our youthful outlook on life around puberty.
Oh, yes. I tried really hard to be cool. I perfected the eye roll that I learned from my elder sister.
Right. We model ourselves after older children.
Mm-hmm.
So we think cool is an older child.
Actually, remember my mom getting very angry at me. I was talking with my friend Jill about a teacher I had, Mrs. Hammond, and we'd call her Hammond. You know, we had learned to get rid of the honorific, the Mrs. or Mr., and just call them by their last name, almost like a curse word. And she would have none of that. Mom, wherever you are in this universe, thank you for being you.
Yep.
Let's talk about listening.
Oh, please talk to me about listening.
Well, you said something to me at the beginning of this show.
What did I say?
And I listened. I'll tell you in 1 sec. I listened to hear from your perspective, and it was wonderful. What you said was, I read to you what fairy tales can come true, can happen to you if you're young at heart, and then ever feel weighed down by time and age. Tune into being here with the Canes and reignite your youthful curiosity and delight.
Mm-hmm.
And you said, I've been feeling weighed down by time and age today. And I said, perfect, because you can, from direct experience, relate, express how to step out of that, how to have that dissolve in an instant.
Only if I do it.
Only if you step out of it.
Yes, only if I step out of it. You know, it's interesting. We went and picked up my Suburban, which was being repaired. And when I came home, as I was driving past our property, I saw this tree in the woods. So I parked the Suburban in the garage. Then I walked out into the woods and I looked at how I would fell this tree and turn it into firewood.
I'm assuming it was a standing dead wood.
It was standing and it was dead. And I was looking at it and looking at how I would drop it so it would land in a place that it wouldn't, do too much damage to the trees around it. And in that moment, I was ageless. In that moment, COVID really
knocked our feet out from under us.
I was going to say knocked the hell out of me, but that was an understatement. It definitely has reduced my energy levels and my lung capacity. That's for sure. And because I still cough months after the event. But when I get engaged in what is in front of me, rather than what I think I need to do, suddenly I'm fully engaged in that moment of my life, rather than the thoughts that persist and repeat themselves about how I should be or could be, or how it should be different than it is.
So let me get this straight for our listeners and our guests, why not for our guests too? You have repetitive, self-defeating thoughts, even you.
Absolutely.
If he didn't, he'd probably be dead.
See, and the thing is, whether you engage in those thoughts or resist those thoughts, if you resist them, well, then you're stuck with them.
You engage in them, you're stuck with them.
And if you engage in them, you're stuck with them. Well, I see these political flags around here. And if I get lost in the conversation in my head that's stimulated by seeing those political flags,
Pro or con, for or against.
right, suddenly I'm lost in a conversation that's happened before that has no successful conclusion, because no matter what you come up with, it's fruitless, and it's a waste of your life.
You know, one of the things I've seen that's allowed you to be what you might call have youthful curiosity and allow you to be delighted. I can talk about myself as well, but I've just been watching it over this day, is particularly, as you mentioned, since COVID, we've had a different energy level. And to the degree that we have not tried to be where we were before, but embraced where we are, it allows, when we run out of energy, to have that be delightful too, as opposed to, I really got to keep going because a better me would keep
Well, you
going.
know what I really love? You. See, you allow me to be the way I am rather than your ideas or pictures of how I should be. So if I want to lay down and take a nap, you are very much 100% in support of that, rather than, no, we should do this or that.
Absolutely, unless there's an emergency.
Well,
Which happened on Christmas Eve. Shia laid down to take a nap. I could hear he wasn't asleep yet because he was listening to something on his iPhone. And at that moment, our water failed. There was no water. So we knew something was wrong.
We pump our own water from a well, a drilled well that's 120 feet deep.
Well, it turned out the whole thing had failed. We had to get emergency service, Christmas Eve service. These people came out. If you recall, you may not recall, you may not have been on our neck of the woods, but it was like a -10, -15 degree wind chill. It was very, very cold. They kept freezing to the pipes. Shai went out with these people the entire time they were there. So it was a really interesting thing that you needed rest, except for when called upon, you fully were there. And I guarantee you were not talking about where you would have preferred to be.
No. In fact, when they were finally reassembling the well, they had to look down the well shaft, and their flashlight was not bright enough. So they were stumbling or trying but not succeeding in connecting a fitting that was down about 5 feet into the well itself. And I went into the house and got one of my strong flashlights and brought it out. Before they said anything, I just showed up with it because I looked, I saw what was needed, and I produced it.
I have to say, I was in the house at the time. Our friend Lenore was over. We were playing dress up with some ball gowns I had left over from Shai's dad because I thought they might fit her now. And
my dad wore ball gowns.
Made ball gowns by very, like Bill Blass and Skazi and Oscar De La Renta. And I have a bunch of them sitting around or hanging in our closet. So it was really fun. When you came in, it was like, I've got an idea. I have a bright flashlight. I'm getting it. I think these guys could use it. And it was like, you didn't just waltz into the house. You were moving with purpose. And it was so sweet. And then when they...
Yeah, but you see, here's the thing. If you think you're old, you're old. In those moments that you think, oh, well, one of these days will be my last, This one is your last. If you're not here for this moment, you're not here. And this is where your life is taking place. Now, sometimes your life is lacking energy, and then you need to rest. And other times, when you get engaged, interestingly enough, the energy shows up.
Mm. We have two incredible guests today. Should we take our first one?
Let me think about it.
Yes, the answer is a definitive yes. Hello, don't forget to unmute. There you go, and tell us who you are and where you're zooming in from.
Hi, I'm Leah, and I'm zooming in from South Orange, New Jersey.
Ah, so nice to see you. What a treat.
So nice to see you. So lovely listening to you. I just feel refreshed just from the last brief conversation you guys were just having. And I have to say, this talk about young at heart and age, I just turned 42 actually recently, and I met you guys when I was like late 20s, I think.
Wow.
You're
And
42.
I am. And I feel so much younger now than when I met you guys.
Sarah's 82. That's pretty cool.
That's very
actually.
cool.
Wow.
20 years on you. Hey.
Yeah, I am.
That's out.
Yeah, but look at what's ahead. Wonderfulness.
Exactly. I am so grateful for this podcast and all your resources and seminars. But I have a question because my mind plays tricks on me sometimes with age.
Okay.
And the one that comes to mind that I wanted to ask you about was, for the large part of my career as an adult, I was just specifically focused on being an actress. And then in the last really like eight years or so, it's become much broader and my interests have shifted, and I've I'm really primarily interested in directing, producing, writing, and being behind the camera rather than in front of it or on stage. And sometimes my mind says, oh no, I have to start all over, or I'm 42 and I'm just starting this new career, and now I have to spend another 20 years in order to get, I don't know, to where I think I'm supposed to be or something like. And
Well, let's start with the last thing you said, where you think you ought to be or need to be. Well, those are thoughts, and they're repetitive, and they're mechanical, and they're stimulated by who knows what in your environment. They show up apparently randomly, but they're all stimulus response mechanism, machinery. It's not you. It's just what's playing on your radio.
yeah, yeah,
This plays back. If you listen to the way you said, I'm 42, the first time, you said it like it had this great weight.
Like it meant that you were over the hill. Look, remember when you were like 16?
yeah,
30-year-old was old.
yep. Yeah.
Anybody over 30.
For
20?
me, when I was 16, I had a friend who had a 20-year-old brother and his friends, and we were all camping with her parents. And I was like, oh man, these people are ancient. And they were 20.
Yeah, I remembered as I did plays as a teenager, and I remember being 16 and doing a play where there was a ballerina and she was maybe 41, 42. And I remember thinking, wow, you can still dance at 42? Like you're still allowed to be a professional ballerina. And
Look, you're talented at whatever you bring your awareness and attention to, not what you think about.
yeah,
See, if you think about your talent, you're talentless. Have you noticed that?
yeah,
You're never enough for the idea you have of yourself about your abilities and your talents.
yeah,
One of the interesting things lately is I have not had the energy I used to have prior to COVID. And so I can either listen to the thoughts about I'm over the hill, or I can re-engage in whatever I'm up to that those thoughts save me from. By that, I mean, those thoughts save me from the idea that I may not be able to do something.
The unknown.
The
thing you
unknown.
creative process. The other thing is, it is true that we have less energy than we had a few months ago.
But sex is better.
That's true too. But I think one of the things that's been happening about all of that is looking and seeing what I really want to do, rather than doing a lot of extra things to avoid what I really want to do.
Mm.
And here's the other thing, just to put it in perspective, Leah, my mom, at some point, my mom and dad started a clothing store in Gresham, Oregon. It was called the Glass Butterfly. It was in existence for 50 years, although they sold it when she was in her 70s. She started it. They started it together when she was 45.
Wow.
Beginning of her career. She had been a homemaker and had supported my dad for all those years, and it was finally her time. And a few years after they launched it, she was voted best business person on the West Coast. Now, I want to know why you think at 42, you know, you can't be this stunningly.
At 42, you're in your prime. You know, really in your prime.
I don't know why, but when I turned 50, I'm now just about 65. When I turned 50, I thought, oh, finally, I'm an adult. I start my career now. Now, it doesn't mean that I hadn't had a successful career up until then, but probably I had absorbed some ideas about, you know, from my background, and it included that life was a launching pad, and you know, here we go.
Thank you. Yeah.
You know, the other thing is, I've seen you and your husband Andy with your really sweet daughter Maggie, and she'll come on Zoom seminars because we still meet via Zoom, and sometimes it's not nap time and she's awake. And she isn't talking to herself yet about her age. That's something she'll absorb. So it is just wonder and delight. And of course, sometimes tantrums and all those other things. But it really is about disengaging from the conversation that tells you how you are and tells you what you can expect. And I really want to circle around to what you said, Shai, because I love the point you made that talking to yourself about your age is a great way to avoid.
It's a distraction.
The creation and in the unknown. And that's what you're creative.
And you know, as a director and producer, you're in a very creative moment.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm starting.
Here's the thing. You can't really trust yourself. At least not that conversation that you listen to, that you say is you. But, you know, the people that you work for, they're not stupid, are they?
No.
And they hired you. And they're paying you money like
the professional you are.
Right. They're not skimping. They're not saying, well, look, you're just junior at this, so we're going to give you half salary until you get better.
And if you take a look,
Yeah.
Go back to the previous job, when you were hired, you'd not directed and you'd not produced. And they hired you as a full-blown director and producer because they knew who you were before you did.
That's really true. Yeah.
Look, you are a very good actress, but you're just very good. And fill in the blank as to what you're doing, you'll be good at that.
Well, yes, let's go back. You worked part-time for us for a number of years, and there was a period of time where like, oh man, we don't have to deal with social media. And And can you do it for us? You're like, I don't really know a lot about social media, but let me look into it. And you learned things that now our staff do, people do. You learned a whole discipline that you knew nothing about when you started. It just has to do with whether or not you want to.
Mm. I love that. Yeah.
See, here's the thing. You can either listen to your considerations about how you can't, or you can do it. Listening to considerations only pollutes the possibility. You know, I have a consideration mill that spits out. I'm not good at technology. I'm not good at computing. Now, look, I'm dyslexic, and so for me to type is a chore. But if I engage in that rather than my thoughts about my abilities, if I just engage in what needs to be done, I'm quite excellent at whatever I set myself to.
Yeah, it's funny how he thinks he's not particularly tech savvy, because I often walk by a room where he's watching a fly tying video. Like, he wants to learn how to tie a certain type of fishing fly, and he will go through the different videos on YouTube to find a person he likes, and he'll do that. Or he'll be watching different videos or listening to news, and they're all from different portals. And I think it's pretty the conversation that sustains itself, that is not based in reality.
I don't engage in social media.
Well, neither do I, but it doesn't mean I don't know how. It just means I don't like it, and I'm not gonna.
True. All true.
Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you both so much.
Well, you know something? It goes both ways. I really appreciate your appreciation.
Yeah, it's funny to say, oh, you were in your late 20s when you first met us. You've done a lot of different seminars with us, and it maybe in the early years you thought of yourself as deficient or broken, but it's been so long since that. And of course you lose your center from time to time.
You know, one of the words, or one of the definitions, if you will, of transformation is the ability to transcend your bratty nature. See, when we first met, you had a bratty nature.
Oh, yes, I did.
Okay.
I love you laughing at it too. It's
yeah.
But I spent time with my grandchildren just the other day, and they still have their bratty nature.
Of course, they're still young and kids, but they may have it forever. We'll see.
Yes, they may have it forever, because most people never grow out of that bratty nature that justifies upsetting yourself and blaming it on the circumstances.
But the thing that I really admire about you, Leah, we'll offer a seminar, we'll offer a weekend, and you'll look and see, wow, do I want, if you have an upswelling of interest, you do it. It's not, oh, really, I should be over needing this by now. And I never think about it like you come because you need it. Although sometimes people, you know, you may be like, wow, I really need this weekend because I could use some relaxing into life. But I just admire that about you.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel so grateful not to live in that space anymore of my bratty nature, where that was how I operated into life. And
it was an automatic way of relating to life where life never showed up satisfying.
Yeah.
Always problematic. It would always be better if and when. And that's where most people are stuck. You know, I saw a very interesting thing on television recently. It was about money. That people think that if they had more money, they'd be happier. It was actually about happiness. And if they had as much money as they had, or 4 times as much money as they had, they still wouldn't be happy if they're not happy.
Research showed that once you kind of made a middle class income so that you had a sustainable amount of money, not a grand amount of money, but a sustainable amount of money, doubling, tripling, quadrupling it never made a difference in your happiest quotient.
Yeah. So why not just get happy, man, you know? But you know, to get happy, you have to give up being right about those things that you say make you unhappy.
And you know what's so funny? Most of us think once we get rid of circumstance X, we'll be happier. And back in like the early 80s, we got rid of all those circumstance X, Y, and Z, and we didn't get happier. And that's when the real looking for where happiness resided began. And I'm really happy that we have discovered it and that you are a part of it, Leah.
And rediscovered it, because you see, it's easy to lose your sense of self. You know, it's so easy to get lost in the idea that something is going to make it better if you get something in the future. Look, I know you and Andy love your daughter, and she's an endless fount of amusement. And sometimes she's a pain in the ass.
Yes, all of those things. Yes.
All of those things. And yes, she's lovely. And yes, she makes your life exciting. But I don't know that you're any happier now than you were before.
Yeah. And she doesn't stop those thoughts that say, oh, I'm 42 and blah, blah, blah. Like that. I'm so grateful for her, but.
Oh, when you reach 52, they'll say that.
Yeah, exactly.
And 72. Oh my God.
Oh my God, getting Medicare. Yeah. So.
Well, I'm so grateful for the tools to enjoy my life.
Well, you see, the truth is there are no tools. The truth is there's only this moment. And when you get here, you don't need a tool. You're directly engaged in your life.
Well, just recontextualize what she said.
Okay.
The tools to refine the moment when she falls out of it, because that's really what she's talking about.
Yeah.
Get lost in a thought process. She can just realize now that it's a thought
Oops,
process.
I'm lost.
Rather
and
than
come back. Yes.
That's good, right?
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, thanks.
You today.
Pleasure.
Alrighty then. Drum roll, please. You sound like our cat. It's time for our listener feedback spotlight while Shai is here purring with me. We get to hear from one of our listeners
about how transformation has impacted their lives. And if you'd like to learn more or register for any of our upcoming courses, visit transformationmadeeasy.com.
Yeah.
And when I say easy, it's like the fire swamp.
Yeah, join us.
If you know your way through it, it's easy. If you have a good guide, it's easy. If you don't, well, there's rodents of unusual size. There's lightning sand.
All those
thing?
I don't remember.
Oh, and the fire spurts. Right.
There you go.
There you go.
We're great
Transformation made easy.
Hi, this is Judy from New York City. I love listening to Being Here on my morning walks. It's a great way to start the day, and I see new possibilities where there were none before.
Do you want to have well-being with consistency? Connect with people all over the world from the comfort of your own home at Ariel and Shire's lively interactive Living Made Easy virtual seminars. Join any of their 2-hour online events or take a deep dive into the magic of being you at a virtual weekend seminar. Come on, let's connect. Find out more and register at transformationmadeeasy.com.
Our next Living Made Easy seminars are coming up on Saturday, Monday, And then Tuesday evening is the translated evening in the European time zone. And you can find out and register about any of those on our website.
Transformation Made Easy.com.
Our next seminar upcoming the end of this month is in person in New Jersey, Camp Tecumseh, easy to get to wherever you're coming from. We have
It's sleepaway camp for big kids.
It's on the 24th, 25th, and 26th. The theme is being alive.
That's of March.
Yeah, March.
24th, 25th, and 26th.
Our next virtual weekend seminar is toward the end of April on the 22nd and 23rd. The theme is Step into Your Brilliance. Costa Rica is open. We can't give you the details here because we are recording this prior to going to Costa Rica this year, but I guarantee you it is going to be awesome. So you can check in on our website for details on that. One last thing for those of you who regularly come to
one other thing, if you want to join us in Costa Rica, weekend seminar with us, whether in person or virtual, is a prerequisite. So we can discover whether we work and play well together.
Just giving our listeners a head up, if you are in the US, on Saturday, March 18th, we will already have sprung forward. Daylight savings time happens, or the end of daylight savings happens 1 week earlier, or 2 weeks earlier, actually, than in Europe. So on Saturday, March 18th, that Saturday seminar will be at 10 a.m. Eastern time, 7 a.m. as far as the Pacific time in the US. Just that 1 week, it'll be 1 hour later. Whew, that was a lot of info.
That certainly was.
Let's take our next.
Yes.
All right, Miss Claire, welcome to being here. Tell people where you're zooming in from.
I'm zooming in from Waldorf, Maryland.
Excellent. It's good to see you.
It's nice to see you guys too.
What can we do for you, Claire?
Well, I wanted to tell you first that today I was being a little bit hard on myself. I was feeling like kind of brain foggy because I've been dealing with like just some different health issues. Anyway, but it was funny because as I was getting ready to log on to this podcast, I started to have this song in my head from the movie. I think it's The Unsinkable Molly Brown, maybe. And the song was, it was like, I don't remember the title of the song, but it's like, folks are dumb where I come from, they ain't got any learning. Anyway, and it was like I was able to kind of have fun with wherever I was at. Like, even though I was feeling foggy, I was like, that's okay. Anyway, and I think I was picking it up from you guys just practicing what you were talking about earlier with Leah, which was so inspiring, of just allowing yourself to be wherever you are, not trying to get back to something or trying to be a certain way, but just allowing yourself to be. And then that actually gives you more energy.
Nice.
Excellent.
Our cat is talking to us. Yes.
Making noise.
Hi, baby. Anyway, but also I read the topic of the show about fairy tales, and what came to mind about that was just that I don't know, I was thinking, I think normally my way of thinking about it is people who believe in fairy tales or who think that this kind of thing is possible are naive, or kind of they're going to be taken for a fool or something like that.
Well, you know, being a fool might not be a bad idea. You know, I tell you, if you go through life without worrying about how you look to other people or what they think about you. See, most people don't think about you anyway. They're too busy worrying about how they're doing and if they're doing it right.
And how they look.
And how they look. So, but you have you, meaning all of us, have a self-judgment machine that picks on us so that we become more acceptable to the community we happen to be part of.
Well, in our mind, we become more acceptable.
Well-
I've discovered
Well,
that.
I think you don't want to be rejected
Yes.
by your community,
That's
whatever the
true.
community is. You don't want to be shunned or ostracized. You want to fit in and be acceptable. So you don't look and see what your truth is. You see what is the acceptable way to be, and then you go about doing that. The only problem is that is never, ever satisfying. Even if you do it.
What I was not quite taking exception to, but my caveat to that, Shia, is that I have found that people self-suppress because, like you say, they're afraid of being shunned or they don't want to be rejected. And it's like the world is waiting for them to be fully themselves. They're much less likely to be shunned or rejected when they're like, hey, this is me. And they're just themselves. There's something so relieving and satisfying.
Well, you say what you just said, and I flashed on a Britain's Got Talent that
Yes.
we watched on YouTube.
I have something for you to watch, Claire, and anybody else listening. There's a YouTube video. All you have to do is look it up under Golden Buzzer, Britain's Got Talent, This Is Me.
Okay.
And it's a YouTube video of a 18-year-old woman who has taught her younger brother who's 4 and severely autistic and severely handicapped.
And who can't speak.
They were told that she was told that he would never be able to communicate. It wasn't all right with her. She taught him sign language, and they and a number of people come in and sing the song from The Greatest Show on Earth called This Is Me. And so they're signing it and singing it, and they have a whole host of people who are
expressing,
who are what you would call disabled. They're
handicapped,
autistic. They have all sorts of different handicapped individuals, and they were so self-expressive
and so inspiring that they gave them the golden buzzer.
And we've watched it multiple times because there's something wonderful that they were expressing themselves with abandon, as opposed to checking to see how they
trying to do it right.
Look right, be right.
See, and I see that touches you right now, and it should, because you've been trying desperately to do your life right.
Yes, I have.
As though you could do it wrong.
And, from a cynical perspective, you could consider that they might look foolish. What they looked like to me was inspiration of what was possible for me. And even
That's
that
beautiful.
You recall that song about, which I don't recall because I'm not sure I ever saw that show. I know of that Broadway musical.
I remember hearing that song.
Yes, Ain't Got No Learning. It's interesting how somewhere in you identified with that character, which is part of why you recall the words to that.
Oh, the unsinkable Molly Brown. That I had identified with her. Oh yeah, that's actually really neat. That's cool.
Well, careful here because you might discover something.
What would that be, Shia?
That you might be really neat. And I don't mean neat as in fastidious.
Or clean your counters, but as
right. I mean neat as a really cool human being. And that doesn't work with your story.
Darn it.
Your story is you're a sinner.
Oh, yeah.
You've been raised in a culture that has that as one of its precepts.
You know, it's interesting, the thing about the Christian faith. If I hold it up like a coin and you have heads and tails, I see that inside me, some of the enculturation about being honest and kind and giving and all that comes through that teaching, and I'm really grateful for that. The reverse side of that coin is the concern that you might be bad and therefore go to a bad place sets me up potentially to always watch what I'm doing and self-evaluate. And I think rather than watching what I'm doing, it's more like watching out here, engaging in your environment. I don't have to worry about being kind or mean. If I say something that lands on somebody and I can see on their face that didn't that somehow they perceived it as hurtful, it's very easy to go, wow, sorry. You know, you don't have to work on yourself on the inside. It's really about engaging out, Claire, not working on in.
Okay. Yeah, I think I've also had the idea that, yeah, people who, this is going to sound so silly, and but that people who engage out are perhaps not, I'm trying to think of a way to put this that doesn't sound rude or not nice.
Rude. Go ahead, sound rude, be rude.
Well, that people who put themselves out are not, they can't recognize their inadequacies, so they won't be a success, or that they're failing by, I don't know if that, does that make sense?
Maybe they don't have inadequacies. You see, your idea has inadequacies as part of the possibility of your life, rather than realizing, oh, I'm going to get you now, that God didn't make a mistake with you. See, you're a believer, right?
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
beliefs, I guess.
Yeah.
You do. Good thing, bad thing, it's not relevant. You've shared with us, you know, you've had to have a deep religious belief. Good for you. That's
That's great. But God didn't make a mistake with you.
Well,
Look, aren't you created in God's image?
Yeah, I guess.
Well,
you know,
they teach.
That is what they teach. Yeah, I was gonna say I was brought up very, very religious with all of that. But I don't know, like now I do believe like in a higher power and all that. I don't know exactly like what I believe at this point. So I don't know all of that now. I kind of hold it like, yeah.
I get that, Claire. Like now
Okay.
you're expansive possibilities, but that doesn't mean that hasn't been woven into the fabric
of your life, that God created you in his image. It was even his image. I love that. When God created you in her image.
Yeah, that definitely throws me for a loop, because that goes totally against my programming.
Weird.
Can I throw her for another loop? Okay, so I just want to see if I got your standard correctly. You were talking about if a person who engages out might not see their inadequacies, correct? Is that like they might miss something?
Like I hold them as a failure because they can't see like all the things that they're doing inadequately. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. You know, it's interesting. You may be unaware of this, but hundreds of thousands of people, maybe millions at this point, have listened to these podcasts. This is not the first time you've been on here. And I know there are people listening who think, oh, wow, I wish I could be as self-expressive as Claire. I would never have the courage to come on and talk about, this is what I think, this is what I'm concerned. It's very interesting that your idea of yourself is much more
Limited,
limited than actually how
Than-
you're being.
how you're expressing yourself.
That's hilarious. I mean, I didn't see that. That's brilliant. I mean, that's amazing. You hit the nail on the head. That's so cool.
Well, maybe you're so cool. See, but it doesn't fit your story of you that was put together by a very small, young version of you who didn't realize how magnificent she was.
Well, if you look at that conversation we had with Leah earlier, when Leah was a little girl, she had some success and certainly some successful feedback as an actress and as a singer. So she did musicals in school. I saw a video later in life where she sang with her brother, so they probably did that at home as well. But so when she moved to New York to be an actress, she started having successes, but it never occurred to her the possibility that she had the abilities, the skills, the smarts to be the person producing, writing, and directing. It was not something in her fantasies because she never considered herself. So now that she has this background in film and background in acting, she's putting that all together in a whole new format where she's behind the scenes. She mistakenly thinks she's starting all over, rather than it's an expansion of
Oh,
her successes already.
wow.
See, here's the other thing. You've been incredibly successful. You may not think so, but look, here you are, full blown, in this moment, having a conversation with us about having an awesome life as a possibility. You're not living on the street. There's a lot of people who live on the street these days because they haven't discovered that they have value, or they're busy acting out a vendetta with their parents to prove that they raised them wrong. A lot of people fail for that reason, you see. You're not a failure, you're a success. You've successfully navigated life so it's turned out exactly as it has. And since you're on Zoom with us, I see that you're in a house.
And you have a computer, and you even have and you know how to work Zoom.
You're successful there.
And you have different eyeglasses than last time I saw you. So you have new eyeglasses too. So there you go.
Yeah, these actually aren't new, but yeah, I mean, I have 2 pairs of eyeglasses.
There you go.
See? Told you it was successful.
Well, I'll tell you something. It's great you have 2 eyeglasses. We all have multiple pairs of eyeglasses. Sometimes we look through the lens of I suck, and sometimes we look through the lens of what's possible. And you know, if you don't like the I suck glasses, just stick on a different pair.
I like that very much. Thank you.
You're
You're
welcome.
very welcome.
Thanks for
Mm.
zooming in with us today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, guys.
Hey, if you enjoyed this podcast today, you can leave a review on your favorite podcast app, or you can
Share it with
share it with
somebody.
folks. It's easier and easier to share it these days. If you want to do that, thanks in advance. Ready for next week's episode?
I am.
Live like you were dying.
I like that.
We'll be back next week. So come on back and don't miss
Being here.